We had an incident today where a person who was a member at the Freedom from Nicotine site did a post saying he was coming up on a year soon, and he was just giving us an update that he was smoke-free, except that he had had a cigar around Christmas time, and he's had a few others since then, and he didn't even specify those. Although it didn't make a difference if he didn't specify those. He didn't understand the implication was he automatically lost his membership. Our rules are really clear at the site was if you take any form of nicotine, you're out. Now, the reason for the rule is more important, as far as I'm concerned, than the rule itself. Yes, he lost his membership. But I think the bigger issue was he didn't understand prior to posting. I'm assuming he'll understand it now, that the reason we have this rule is because if you puff on a cigar or a pipe, and the way he had said, he didn't really count it because he didn't inhale it, he just puffed on it. If you puff on a cigar or pipe, you're administering nicotine. To be able to stay free from smoking, you need to understand you're breaking free from a nicotine addiction. You have to keep nicotine out of your body. Puffing on a cigar or pipe, you will absorb nicotine through your oral mucosa, and it can cause a relapse. No different than if you puff on a cigarette. It can cause a relapse. Will it cause an instant relapse every time? Because let's face it, I'm sure he's thinking it didn't cause a relapse. He wasn't smoking after Christmas. It's, months and months from then, and he's still not smoking. Well, no, it doesn't automatically happen the first minute you take it, and we have two videos that discuss this in great detail already. Those two videos, and I think everybody should see them if they haven't, are The Lucky Ones Get Hooked, that very specifically talks about this issue, and another one is I've Got My Smoking Under Control. That's the name of the video, because this one talks about how these people can undercut everyone around them who has quit smoking and who witnesses instances like this. So someone's saying, oh no, I quit smoking, but I smoke every now and then, but I got it under control. That video discusses it very clearly. I had one clinic that I did, and I don't remember exactly when this was. It was sometime in the 1990s. And it wasn't a large group. I mean, usually the groups at that time were probably 15 to 30 people. This one was only 8 or 9 people. And it was interesting because 4 of the people of this group, and that's why I don't know if it was half the group or just under half the group, because I can't remember if it was eight or 9, but 4 of those people in that group were long-term ex-smokers, people who one of them had over 10 years under his belt, and then the other 3 had been multiple-year quitters who had all recently relapsed by smoking a cigar. One of them was a woman who never smoked a cigar a day in her life until this particular moment in time. Now, it's important to note here how this happened to occur, because this wasn't typical. Up to that point in time, I don't remember that ever happening where I had more than one person in a particular group who had gone back to smoking on a cigar, as opposed to half of a group which went back by smoking a cigar. And what had changed at this particular time period was cigars were making a resurgence in popularity. Cigar bars were opening up, and it was becoming kind of a new kind of peer pressure that was going on where people were almost socially expected to smoke. These were people who took up smoking when they were kids, probably one of the factors being peer pressure, who finally got sick and tired of smoking and quit. I mean, again, it was decades later when they quit. Probably were under great peer pressure to quit because smoking had now become unacceptable, and the pressure on them was to stop smoking, and then they quit. And then all of a sudden, peer pressure started to kick up again to smoke cigars. One of the guys I remember clearly, he was in some sort of political position, and there was a very high-ranking political person in whatever party he was at who had offered him the cigar, and he thought it would almost be insulting not to take it. So, and he figured he'd been off for, this was the guy who was off for over a decade. He figured he'd been off over a decade. This shouldn't be an issue. And he relapsed instantly, and he understood the cost. Again, he was coming into the clinic to quit, but it was his first time facing peer pressure to smoke again, and it undid him. It's important that people understand that any way you can get nicotine in your body, it could take your quit away. Again, those two videos I referred to will explain how it may not happen instantly, but in the long run, it's probably going to happen to the vast majority of people who make the mistake of thinking they can administer nicotine safely because they have their smoking under control, because they've been off for so long. Or again, the false premise that this man worked with was because he didn't inhale it into his lung. He had it under control. I'm going to do another video in a few minutes that I'm going to have on oral tobacco use, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about this in there too. So again, to keep this video reasonable length of time, just saying, if you're more interested in the topic of how you could absorb nicotine through your oral mucosa, that video is going to discuss that, and it's just going to be called oral tobacco usage. So if you haven't quit going, again, this man lost his membership. That seems like a big consequence, but you know, that's not the big consequence. It isn't. In fact, most people seeing this, hopefully, or people who are seeing this on YouTube, you don't even belong to the Freedom site. So, gee, if you were to take a cigar, you wouldn't have an immediate consequence of losing a membership. The consequence of taking a cigar or a pipe, or again, any form of nicotine after you quit smoking, the real consequence isn't that you're going to lose membership in some group. It's that you're going to likely lose your quit at that point in time. And losing your quit has a lot greater significance than losing a membership in anything. Because losing your quit could end up making you lose your health and lose your life. You are fighting for your life when you quit smoking. To keep winning at staying a non-smoker, it's a matter of sticking with the commitment that you hopefully made the day you stopped, and now continuing to stick with it, to never take another puff.